Hello, good evening, and welcome to episode 13 of the Rangers Gameplan podcast, where we discuss what's going to be the multi-weeks ahead of us. There was no week beforehand. It's been the off-season beforehand. It's been a while since we've gotten together, but we're back at it to discuss a little bit of preseason line combinations and thoughts on the Metro.
Yeah, so it's definitely been a while. We've had a lot of time to decompress, and I don't know how much your feelings have changed about the team itself, but at least I'm not just boiling with rage. I've definitely calmed down quite a bit. So
I no longer want to put a fist through the computer monitor, so
yeah, and I mean the one thing that kind of sucks, and I feel like most Rangers fans would probably agree with this and feel the same way. It definitely is, somewhat of a similar feeling to the beginning of last season, where we kind of just don't care about anything that's about to happen for the next few months until we get into the playoffs. There's really nothing that can happen in during the regular season that will severely, impact the way I feel about them one way or the other, unless of course they just completely implode, which I really don't see happening.
right.
I guess, in terms of the lines and everything, it's, obviously just about the same lineup, but they, Blake Wheeler, Bonino, guys like that are, I'm not sure how much they will be used. Hopefully Blake Wheeler does not have to have a significant role on this team. If he does, that probably means very bad things have happened. So we're just going to go into this assuming that he is a third line forward like we expect him to be, and we're not going to jinx anything else. So,
All right, you want to go this line by line with predictions?
yeah, do you want to go first? Or
I'll let you go first for first line.
so first line, right off the bat, I think I'm just going to go Laugh, Mika, Kako is kind of what I've been thinking a little bit.
Okay.
That I think that's how you start the season. We've said it, 600 million times on this podcast, but for this team to take the next step, those two definitely have to, get more ice time and be forced to take the next step, and we just kind of have to hope that the points come along with it. I don't know how you're feeling about that first line. I'm not totally set on it. I just think for the first 3 games or so, that could be it.
I have Lafreniere, Zibanejad, and Kreider. I
Okay.
I get Kako there with Loff, but the way I'm kind of looking at the top 2 lines and like how you want to shuffle that around with the kids, I want Loff with Mika and Kreider because I feel that Mika is one of the most underrated 200-foot forwards in the sport. People do not appreciate his defensive game. Kreider's also pretty good defensively. Lafreniere is very much... I mean, I would love to say an offensive threat, but he's still yet to put up 40 points, so that's to be determined. In an ideal world, he's an offensive threat, and his defense is, kind of behind that. I don't love the thought of him being with, like, because I know a lot of people would just say, oh, put Lafreniere with Panarin, that's the winning formula, or that's what's going to be the winning formula. I don't like that because of the defensive aspect of that line, and so I just kind of wanted to put the better young winger with Kreider and Mika to kind of mitigate the defense there, and then put Kako, who's shown to be fantastic defensively, on the second line. Also, I don't necessarily want to see Loff with Panarin this year because both of them are just assist focused. They want to pass the puck to somebody else. They don't have that nose for goals at this point, and it could come back. I mean, Panarin looks like he's ready to score 60 goals this year, which would be fun. But I'm feeling the first line could be Loff, Mika, and Kreider. I would not be shocked if it's Kako there instead of Kreider, but... And again, it's a lot of it's the power play. This is still a player who scored 80 goals in 2 years. I still would like to see him just kind of be that annoyance right in front of the goaltender and let Mika do his thing and hopefully have Loft just throw it towards the net and get free assists. I say free, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've kind of been going back and forth with Kreider on a lot of these line combos, and let me just start off by saying, there have been times where I've definitely considered putting him on the third line, and that is not a knock on him whatsoever.
no.
Um, Now, the other thing is Kreider has been my favorite player, or one of my favorite players on this team since he came into the league. So we've seen what he can do his whole career, and he's definitely not the most productive 5-on-5. Obviously most of his production comes from the power play, and he does get some goals, even strength here and there, but it's not necessarily his strong suit. The reason that I am debating putting him on the third line is because last year I thought him and Trocheck looked fantastic
That's fair.
for, I think, like the 2-3 games we saw it, and then we just never saw it again. Now, if we never saw that spark from those two, I would never consider this. I just think that they worked so terrific together last year that is the sole reason that I'm willing to do that. Now, the one thing I am scared of about, because right now I'm just looking at the lines. I'm when I'm filling these in, it's Kako on the right, and then I just don't know what order to put the rest of the guys in. I mean, we kind of have to hope that Laugh is comfortable playing on the right. Apparently he's supposed to be getting reps on the right throughout this preseason and training camp. We'll see how it goes. But the right wing depth is definitely looking pretty scary on paper right now, and not in a good way. Because, like I said, I don't want Blake Wheeler to have a super significant role on this team. Not to say I want him on the fourth line or anything like that, because I definitely don't. But it's just I'd rather him just be on the fourth line, and at this point in his career, I don't know how much more of he's capable than that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of teams struggle when they start to ask players to provide in a role they're not necessarily capable of, and I definitely want to avoid that. So if both Kako and Laugh could play on the right, that'd be ideal. Like I said, for right now, I have both of them on the first line. I'm totally open to just any line combos right now. My main thing is I just hope they find a lineup and stick with it. We don't necessarily have to go on all that again with Mr. Gallant about how he would just constantly change the lines. All I'll say is that I hope that doesn't happen again.
Please.
But yeah, so I mean, I'm willing, just to kind of edit it a little bit. I am willing to put, Kreider, Mika, and Laugh up first line. I'm debating on whether I want Trocheck on the second or third. I guess I will just leave him on the second with Panarin right now.
Yep.
But I do think Philip Hedl has another level to his game that hasn't been unlocked yet. And I think there's only one way to unlock it, and that's just to put him with, Panarin. I don't know if we're going to see it, but I've thought about it even during the season last year. And it's just interesting to me. So I guess, on the second line, I would have Panarin, Trocheck, Kako. That would be where I'd go with that.
I will definitely say, I completely had forgotten about it. I love the thought of Kreider with Trocheck at some point. And if it doesn't just immediately click, like if the lines aren't just potting goals left and right, I think that is something you definitely have to try.
Mm-hmm.
And on Hedl, I think there is a good bit more you could get out of him this season. And unless Trocheck, because he was brought in last year as the sort of, it wasn't a marquee free agent signing, because he just simply isn't that. But he was like he was the most expensive player they brought in, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
He was the quote-unquote big move of the offseason. And so you're kind of putting him in the second line just from proxy with that. He's got a short leash. I mean, he just didn't show me enough last year. And the big thing was, they brought him in because he was a pain in the ass in the Carolina series. So they're bringing him in. This is a postseason move. And if you told me that he didn't play a shift in that series against the Devils, I'd be like, thought I saw him, but I must have not.
I think he had... I forget the point totals now. It's been so long. I think he had 1 goal, and that's it.
I'd be shocked if he...
I think it was just 1 point in 7 games. So, we definitely need more from him. I was definitely underwhelmed by him. I feel like a lot of Rangers fans, it's either... It's one way or the other. I don't think anybody's really in the middle on Trocheck to any extent. But it's, me personally, and I know you just said you agreed, I was definitely very underwhelmed by it, just in a lot of aspects. Because I remember when we played against him, I like hated him because he was just such a pain in the ass. I literally couldn't stand him, and I just didn't see that as much, from him in a Rangers jersey. So I don't know. Maybe it's just, he needed a year to settle into everything. But regardless, I mean, we have personally called out basically everyone on this team besides Igor, so we don't really have to go into it all that much. But, point stands, we just need to see more from him. I don't know. Like I said, I definitely would like to see him with Kreider. I just don't know how that's going to shake out because obviously we do not have Tarasenko or Kane. So I don't know how much flexibility you really have to kind of shuffle guys like that down in the lineup too much. And just to really quickly talk about that, I know there's been a little bit of fuss about Patrick Kane coming back. Listen, I think if they could, it would have been done by now. But I think most people currently have more money in their bank account than the Rangers do have cap space right now, currently. I don't know the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it's like as close to 0 as you could possibly get. So unless he just wants to play for free, it's not going to happen. I mean, unless they could... And with that being said, I mean... Drury completely bent over backwards to make the trade happen in the first place. So, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he found a way to somehow free up money just with, allocation of players on the roster like he did the last time. But, now the one thing I will say about it, I'm not opposed to him coming back. And I will, preface it by saying that I am very biased when it comes, to Patrick Kane, because my all-time favorite hockey players, number 1 is Henrik Lundqvist, and 2 is Patrick Kane, and it's been like that for my whole life. So there's definitely a lot of bias there. But I like I said, I'm definitely not completely against it. They just don't have the money. And just, like I said, if they were to free up money, the thing I will say about him is I wouldn't hate him on the roster because I feel like he is at minimum a 50-point scorer. And considering this is a season where we are relying on, Laff and Kako to break out to really take the next step, I wouldn't hate having just an extra security blanket in there. Yeah. Like I said, he is at minimum a 50-point scorer. There's just no way around that. And currently, Laff and Kako have not even touched that. So if they could find a way to do it, I wouldn't hate it. It's just I'd be more shocked if they re-signed him than I was when they actually made the trade. I'll just straight up say that. Yeah. Because I don't see how it's just physically possible right now.
So quickly on that, my good sir Evan, are you $46,000 in debt? Because if you have anything more than negative $46,000 in the bank, you have more than the New York Rangers right now.
Oh my God, yeah. And you know what? Before I said I don't know the exact number, and the sole reason of that is because I've been too terrified of the number to actually pull up Cap Friendly and look at it. So now that you've actually said it to me, wow. Yeah, that... Am I surprised? No, but I'm just I'm scared because
there's no help coming.
This is the team, guys. This is it. No, there's nothing coming in. Absolutely nothing. Yeah, wow. Okay. Yeah, so they don't even have money for like a deadline move.
Not until they find a way to allocate.
Yeah, they'll just play 6 players for 2 months again. Good idea. To just inevitably trade for Tyler Mott once again.
He
So
signed, right? He
yeah,
signed
he's with the
the
Lightning.
Gross.
By the way, it's 800K. I know we've gone way off track here, but I mean
No,
it's
let's do this.
it's the off season that this is kind of where those things happen.
Yep.
800K. Listen, I know he's a fourth line guy. And by all means, I do think Rangers fans have overrated him like a lot. But 800K is ridiculous. Doesn't Ryan Reeves make more than him?
Oh, easily.
Currently?
Well over.
Like, isn't Ryan Reeves like a 1.3 for 3 years?
Yeah.
So, like, come on. Like, I don't know what's going on there. Like, he's been getting lowballed his whole career because I think the last contract he had, it was like right around there. Yeah, it was. I just don't understand. Like, he's a fourth line guy, but if I had to like rank fourth line players, he would definitely be on a very high tier.
He's the
like
top
he's a
shelf of the fourth line.
Yeah, like he's a really really good player, and he's gonna be making significantly less than Ryan Reeves, who probably won't even play like 50% of the games.
Also, I'm sorry, but like if you're trying to convince me that you would rather have Bonino or Pitlick over Gaudreau, I'm just
Yeah, yeah. I think both of us are in the same boat on Gaudreau. Like, I don't know why people hate him.
He's
Listen.
fine.
I know the contract isn't right in the breadbasket where you'd want it to be. I get that.
That's not his fault.
But yeah, it's not his fault. Like, we were the ones that signed him to it, and it's not like a completely terrible contract where you're handcuffed. Like, it's just not. Like, it's $3 million, and is that maybe a little higher than I would like? Of course. But I could also say that about a lot of this roster, and the majority of those culprits are the players that we are relying on to take us to the promised land. So Barclay Goodrow is the least of my concerns, and has been the least of my concerns. So I don't know. Like, you can make him the scapegoat all you want, but I think he's a perfectly fine player. I do think he actually contributes a lot to this team. If we want to talk about how bad this team is defensively, he's one of your only saving graces. I not to make it seem like he's elite defensive forward, but it's like he's one of the only guys on the team last year that actually tried to play defense. So the fact that he was a scapegoat is just like mind-blowing to me. Like he like I said, I think if you were to look at the lines from last year, he's probably one of 4 forwards that were actually like attempting to stop the other team from scoring.
At least
but I'm not joking. Like,
the puck crossed our blue line and half of the team would just reboot. Be like, well, they got that one.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the only, to go back on what we were originally talking about, I think the only debates that are to be had will really just be with the top 6. Yeah. I mean, the one thing that scares me too is
my head off about the third line.
Let's say that now this is where it gets scary for me, right? Because so now I'm just reading off the lines that I have, but you don't necessarily have to take this to heart. I'm just reading off the players that are currently in my top 6. So obviously Kreider, Mika, Laff, Panarin, Trocheck, Kakko.
Yep.
Now, who is Hedl playing with?
It gets scary, man.
Who is Hedl playing with that's going to elevate his game? Now, don't get me wrong. Blake Wheeler is a fine player. That's another guy that's like at minimum 50 points, regardless. Easy. Maybe 40 if like you really want to dip that low. But regardless, he's not like one of those players that's just dead in the water offensively. Like, he's just not. So, other than that, yeah, I don't. VZ?
I have Gaudreau, Wheeler, and Hedl as my third line.
I don't hate that. I mean,
you're gonna hate maybe, the fourth one.
Yeah.
It gets bad.
What would it be? Just VZ, Benino, and Pitlick?
Yep.
Yeah.
I
So
have.
listen. VZ is another player that I think is actually that's one of the four guys that I mentioned that actually tried to play defense last year.
It
So
pains me
I
how
mean,
important VC is to this team.
yeah, and I'm just now. Listen, this is our the first episode of the season. I'm not trying to be super negative. We've done enough negativity with all the everything that just transpired with this team with the playoffs and most of the regular season. It was just painful to watch. I'm really not trying to be like that. I understand we're all trying to be excited, but like, ah, you know, the one thing I will say is we will be fine if the players that we need to produce actually produce. So,
Easily.
I mean, as much as we don't necessarily have the depth anymore that we did with the lineup on paper going into the playoffs, the thing is like you're just asking more from Laugh and Kako, and if they break out and you just get that the steady numbers that you have been from Kreider and Mika and Panarin, they will be fine. We just have to hope that Laugh and Kako actually do that. The one thing that scares me is they probably won't be playing with Heedle anymore, and he is going to be on a significantly worse line, and I don't know how that's going to shake out. Do I think he'd be terrible with that line of, whether you want to put VZ or Goodrow with him and Wheeler? Do I think he'd be bad? No. But I just think, the kid line that we had was dynamic. They weren't necessarily the most consistent, or at least in the playoffs, but I felt comfortable with them on the ice just together to, make each other better. I don't see that for Heedle with that line.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously if he's with Panarin, I'm happy. But then the same thing goes for I don't know how Trocheck would do. And honestly, now that I think about it, I don't think him and Wheeler would be bad together. I think that would be a really tough line to play against for other teams. Uh, the only thing that concerns me is Trocheck is on a little bit too big of a contract to have that role of just being on a third line guy with Goodrow and Blake Wheeler to kind of just be super, gritty and all that good stuff. Like I just think the contract is not calling for that. So
Like,
that would make me dislike Trocheck a lot more
if you
if
end
that
up,
actually ends up happening.
because what sucks the most is like I could easily be talked into some of the lines you're talking about. Like you throw Heedle with Panarin, and then you have Trocheck, Wheeler, and Kreider as the third line, which I'm not against at all. That's like a $12 million third line.
Yeah.
You're
That is. And I don't know, like
And if Wheeler
we'll
doesn't
see
work
what
out,
happens.
and you have, oh god, and if Wheeler didn't work out, and you had to put Goodrow up there, and you end up with Tro, Goody, and Kreider, you have like a $14 million.
Yeah, that's just not good. That's really not good. I don't know. I mean, like I said, we'll see what happens because I'd be shocked if Drury doesn't, pull something out of his hat to move some money around and be able to get somebody. The thing is that it's not going to be Patrick Kane or
No.
Tarasenko. That's the thing. You'll get like maybe a somewhat decent complimentary guy, but listen, our big splash it all happened last year. That's just not happening again. It's simply not. Barring something even more shocking than what happened with Patrick Kane, it's just not gonna happen.
Unless another Hall of Fame player decides, I am going to play for the Rangers or die.
Yeah,
You're...
then we're beat. Then we're beat. I mean, now that we're talking about all this, obviously, last year the main critique of this team when they got eliminated is they just felt like a team full of superstars and they weren't actually playing hard. And maybe this is what actually gets them to play hard when they just don't have a lineup where they go into every game expecting to just kill teams based on talent. Being that they don't have that anymore, hopefully that brings it back to where the season prior where we actually felt like they fought in every game.
Yeah, they very much. It felt to me they far and away play better when they are having to play as that underdog mentality. And so I'm not going to say something as insane as, now that they got less skilled on paper, they're going to be better. But I am interested to see them not just be able to kind of kick their feet up and still get to, 45, 50 wins, like have to actually try for it. And put forth some effort, because it isn't just free.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, the majority of the debating with the actual line combos themselves that's all just going to take place in the top 6, and we just talked about all that. Obviously, looking at it on paper, it's far less exciting than it was last year. We all know that. But the one thing I will say, and I think I said this the last time we came on here, like I think being that this team has blown 2 consecutive 2-0 leads in the playoffs, I think, having Blake Wheeler and Benino on this team is definitely going to be impactful in situations like that. Like you said, unless something just catastrophic happens and this team misses the playoffs, they will be in, and it's just, obviously just what do you do from there? But I think considering that you could have just gone to a Stanley Cup final and, you could have just, held the other 2-0 lead and played the team that you just beat in the last playoff run, considering you didn't do either one of those things, clearly you need, more voices in that room. And hopefully Laviolette is one of those. But I just don't think, the lineup from the past 2 years really had enough of that. Mm-hmm. And obviously, mainly, they were a young team and all that stuff. I've said multiple times, I think the majority of that fell on Gallant because he was just super, super hands-off. And I feel like when you give any team at any level that level of freedom, when they go up 2-0, in a series, especially in the fashion they did, this past season, and the vibes in the room are just entirely driven by the players, they're going to get, way too cocky. Yeah. And they didn't have anybody to reel them in from that. So maybe, obviously they don't have the talent on paper anymore, but I just think a lot of the intangibles and whatnot are there, whereas the past couple of years they definitely weren't. So we'll see. I mean, like we keep saying, they're going to be in the playoffs, barring something just going terribly wrong. And it's going to force a lot of these guys to bring a lot more to the table. That goes beyond Laughing Kako. That's going to force the main core of this team. They're going to have to bring a little bit more. So we'll see what happens there. Other than that, the defensive pairings, I'm not touching anything. Obviously, we don't have Mikkola anymore. I'm going to put Gustafsson there.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I don't know about you. I don't think Zach Jones plays a game this year. I think he will be traded. Nothing against him. I just don't see how he has an avenue to actually make the team.
The top 5 are set. Like, it's just the top 5 are the top 5, and they're not going anywhere for a while. I was going to put Gustafsson there. I think he's underrated. I think he's going to be a really nice piece on that third pair.
Yeah, I've definitely heard some really good things about him. Yeah. Specifically offensively, I last year he had a really nice season. I believe he just played with Laviolette, right? Or somewhat recently, something like that. I think so.
I feel like you're right.
I want to say that's true. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about him. Obviously, I'm not expecting anything to be extraordinary.
Yeah, he was on the Caps last year.
Something that's pretty weird, I don't know how you feel about it. I was actually, pretty upset that we don't have Mikkola back. I don't know about you. I liked him.
Yeah.
Considering his role, I definitely liked him. Obviously, we didn't like him as much when he was being forced to play 27 minutes for 3 weeks straight. Then, he wasn't as good, but when he just plays normal third pair minutes, I thought he was just pretty solid. So that I'm definitely upset about, but I'm happy that we got a guy like Gustafsson that could pretty much give you that same comfortability at that spot rather than Zach Jones, because I think Zach Jones has a lot of upside. I just think the last thing this team needs is a small offensive defenseman. That's pretty much it. It's unfortunate for him kind of just the state of the team and the talent they already have there. It's just I don't see really a way he can make the team. Um, but like I said, I don't see him, even playing a game. I think he will be traded at some point. Um, but I think the defense is gonna stay the exact same. I don't really see Laviolette changing anything there. I think if you want to get a little crazy, you could say, if you want to at times put, Miller and Fox together, I'd be okay with that. The one thing I don't think we saw enough of is when the Rangers were down in a game, I don't think we really saw too much of them being together, like just stacking it up on offense and putting them out there. Now, do I want to split Fox and Lindgren up? Absolutely not. I mean, we've talked about it before. They have been a defensive pair since they were 15 or 16 years old. So, we've kind of seen how Adam Fox is not all himself when Lindgren is out. So I don't want to split that up full time, but I just think something that we didn't see last year, among all the line shuffling and everything, I just don't think Gallant actually ever pushed his chips in like that and just put Fox and Miller together.
Yeah.
At least super often. I'm sure it's happened, here and there, but it's just not something we saw super often. So I think if you want to get a little weird and do stuff like that. And the one other thing I will say is during this regular season, if they could not phone it in for the entirety of it, that'd be sweet. Because I think if you could get yourself, enough of a cushion at some points, that would allow you to actually experiment with the lines. I mean, you've seen it with when the Avalanche won the Cup, the whole regular season they were kind of just sitting pretty in the standings, and they would just try weird shit with their lineup. Just in case if an injury happened or what have you, they just know what works and what doesn't. And we have not seen any of that for the past 2-3 years. So I would like to see some of that. I don't really know how much, Laviolette would be willing to do that. I don't really think he has a reputation for doing that. It's just something to consider. But yeah, I mean, to talk about what we were originally talking about, just the D pairs themselves. Apart from that Game 7, I thought the entirety of the defense was really good.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the majority of the Rangers' struggles were a team-wide thing, but I mean, they really didn't let the Devils' stars get going, like, really at all. I mean, obviously, I know we got shut out twice. I know it was a very, very massive meltdown from this team. I'm fully aware of all that. But I just think for the majority of those games, like, I just wasn't seeing the D pairs just get outworked or outmatched by the Devils' really, really fast players. And for that reason, I'm not changing anything with the actual pairs. But like I said, if you want to get a little weird and switch stuff around here and there, that's fine. But just based on what we saw in the playoffs, I don't want anything changed with at least the top 4.
Yeah, I would even go as far as say, like, obviously it's not the top 4 or the top 5 because that isn't really a thing. 5 spots are locked up. I mean, you're gonna have Fox, Lindgren, Miller, Trouba. Schneider's gonna be there. He's proven to be a very solid player at this level. But I wouldn't be opposed to seeing them kind of switch it around just as a emergency thing. I think that's a good point. Also, the whole thought of if it's late in the game and you're down a goal, just why not just kind of throw it out there? Put Miller with Fox. I think that's solid. I think it's fascinating, and you bring up a good point with the Mikkola letting him walk thing. The Rangers let 2 guys who had good chemistry and, like, you knew were solid here in Mikkola and Mott go for 2 other guys for basically the same exact money in Gustafsson and Pitlick and or Bonino, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, if they would have went out and both of them got, like, $2 million a year, then yeah, that makes sense. But they're all, I mean, pretty level as far as play, and if the money was the same,
yeah, that's definitely very strange. Like you said, like, we knew that those things worked, and especially being that Tyler Mott got $800K, it's just that I don't know the exact numbers on Mikkola, but I don't know how he got that, that little money, and I don't know how the Rangers didn't offer that. I mean, I'm going to go out and assume, and I think I've heard this, like when he originally went into free agency, he was asking for 1.5 to 2 mil from the Rangers, and that kind of just priced him out. And I don't think he obviously didn't get anything like that from any other team.
No.
So he just this late in the offseason, he just had to settle for dirt cheap. And I'm going to assume that's what happened. I don't think Mikkola got a lot. I don't. Is he on the Blues? I don't even know who he signed with.
I can't find him. Probably because I don't know how to spell Nico Mikkola.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, it is what it is. Maybe because I'm like I said, I'm 99% sure that Gustafsson was with Laviolette with Washington. Maybe it was just something like that where he just kind of wanted the guy he's familiar with to just to sign him rather than somebody he's never worked with.
Okay.
I'm gonna assume it's that.
I found out the Mikkola thing. 3 years, 7.5 with Florida.
Oh, really? Wow. Oh,
year.
yeah, I do remember that now. I feel like that happened a while ago.
Probably 2.5 a year. That's wild.
Yeah, definitely.
That's
insane, actually
though.
crazy.
The mod thing is weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really don't know how he just keeps getting lowballed. But I mean,
good for Mikkola though.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the one thing is I was shocked when he got that contract because I didn't really know that any other team actually knew anything about him. But he definitely is a solid player. I think he'll do well there, and I'm happy he got a somewhat long-term deal. He definitely deserves it. I feel like he played harder than anybody else on the roster last year. So yeah, I mean, good for him. Good for him. But yeah, I mean, I guess
they're going from Radko Gudas to Nico Mikkola.
Yeah, I guess everybody pretty much knows what we're gonna expect out of this team. The one thing I'm just hoping is that they kind of don't phone it in. We were screaming for them not to do that all season last year. And I'm just hoping that they actually take the regular season seriously. Especially when you just got eliminated in Game 7, on the road. I hope that that's another jab into them where that actually gets them to try. It definitely is important. I know we went up to, 2-0 in that series, but at a certain extent, home ice definitely does matter, especially in the Game 7. So if you can get it, definitely try to get it.
I don't know how losing back-to-back series after going up 2-0 doesn't make you just burn the league to the ground the next season. I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we know what to expect. They're going to be right in there. I guess
the
obviously we still have the hurdles with Carolina and the Devils. I think it's just going to be us three as the top three in the Metro once again. I don't really see anybody else taking over that. I guess the one thing I'll ask you is what do you think they have to do to overtake either one of them?
Before we go into that, we didn't discuss the goaltending. Who do you think's going to be the one?
Oh, yeah, that's definitely tough. That's definitely tough. I would probably say Olaf Lindblom. I think I think that's probably the safe bet. I don't really see anybody else giving him a run for his money.
I completely concur. I think another fun name to look for goalie. Gotta scroll down there. I mean, Chef Lou, really is a name. That
I mean, it sucks that we goaltending has been the main struggle of this franchise for
really
2
is.
decades. So we'll see. That's my only concern is that we just haven't had a goalie for 2 decades.
Yep, that's
man. If only we had the 2 best goalies in the world for 20 years.
Can you imagine?
We would have won several cups if that happened.
Surely that'd be a loaded cupboard.
Oh yeah, let's not get angry. So
to overtake the Devils in Carolina, I think Carolina could regress. I don't know what it is.
They're
think
just
there's
really good in the regular season. They just win the games that they're supposed to all the time. I think that's the one thing you could say about them.
gotta be a mental thing coming for them where like they just keep getting eliminated in rounds 1 or 2, and like they're getting increasingly more embarrassing as we go along.
Hmm.
Like they were supposed to be good, and then they get swept by Florida.
Yeah, I think
Like,
they have like a little bit of the. I don't know if this is 100% true, but I think they have like a little bit of the jitters that the Rangers have, where it's just like their top guys just sometimes just don't do anything. You know, like there's times where I'm like deathly afraid of Sebastian Aho,
mm-hmm.
and then there's other games where I don't even know if he's in the lineup or not. I don't know if that's just me. I don't know if Carolina fans would agree with that, but I think that is true, and I also think they don't have enough like true game changers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, Aho's a very very good player, and
Phenomenal.
he's had success against us as well. That's well documented. But I don't think he's capable of really going toe to toe with a lot of the guys he's lost the playoff series to.
Yeah.
Like don't get me wrong, he's a great player, but I don't know. I mean, I don't really think I'd put him in a tier with a lot of the other centers in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and I think a lot of that is I don't want to say it's inconsistency because I like in the regular season I think he's very very good, and I think the Hurricanes are very very good. Like I said, they definitely win the games they're supposed to. Like it's very rare that I'll check the scores, on any given game on any given night, and I'll see like the Hurricanes are down 4-1 to the Sharks. Like that's
Yeah.
not something that happens with them. So they're very good in the regular season. But like if you just go with, I mean, like even the series that we played against them, like there was just games where they just gave nothing out of their top guys. Like even especially in that game 7 we beat
Oh
them.
my
Like
god.
I literally none of them did anything. That's probably what the Devils fans felt like. Like none, at watching that game, like none of the top guys just were even noticeable. That's how I felt playing against them. So I don't know.
Usually I hate when like you hear an old talking head say it, but and it's just a buzzword. They have no killer instinct when they get to the postseason. They
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like they go up 2-0 over the Rangers. They looked not dead in the water, but they were just very defeating losses. It wasn't like because the first one was overtime, if I'm not mistaken, or was the second one an overtime loss?
It was the first game in overtime. I think one of them was definitely in overtime, and then the other one was when Aho scored like really late in the game, and that was the
Like
game-winning goal.
they were both deflating losses, and
Hmm.
they then get killed 2 games in New York. They win game 5, and then they just snore their way through game 6 and 7. And
Yeah,
like that
I
game
like.
7 was absurd. Like I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
excited. I was looking forward to a very similar to that Pittsburgh game 7. I'm like, all right, here we go. It's gonna be, 60-minute overtime bloodbath, and they just fell asleep at the wheel.
Hmm. Yeah, like I said, I think it's really similar to us. Like the game 7 we just had, there was just no pushback from us. You were waiting for it the whole game. You just kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and it just never really happened. And like I said, I think that's probably how Devils fans felt watching, that series. Um, and that's how exactly the way it was in that game 7 that we beat the Canes. Like there was just nothing. There was absolutely nothing. You were just waiting for them to start pushing back, and it just never ever happened.
I
And
also
I don't know what they have to do to fix that, but I also don't know what we have to do to fix that. So
Oh. Also, I'm just not in love with their goaltending. I think that could
yeah, yeah,
definitely pose an issue to them.
yeah. I've never been a Freddie Anderson guy.
Like, I think he's a fine guy, but he's not. How do I want to put it? He's middle of the pack. He's not a liability. He's not terrible, but he's not. You can't go into like a big game and think, he's gonna keep us in this. Like you have to
Hmm.
help him out. He's not gonna let in awful goals, but he's not gonna be that gets you 3-4 big saves that keep you in a game guy.
Hmm. Yeah,
At least
yeah.
not at this point of his career. Like
Yeah,
he
like
might have been.
he's just the definition of solid, but
Yeah,
nothing else really.
like if you keep the shots pretty good, keep them around 25, 35 shots, you've got a really good chance to win that. Once they get above 45, and granted, you could say this about most teams, he's gonna fall apart. And I don't mean that as a
Yeah.
bad thing. He's an infinitely better goaltender than I will ever be in my life, but it. And if you got to go, is Ronta still their backup?
I believe so. Yeah, I
Which,
think he's.
no
I remember
disrespect
him signing a pretty
to
good contract with them. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so.
no disrespect to Rant Daddy, but I it's the same thing. Like, that's not a goaltending tandem that you feel is going to be able to steal you a game if it comes to the playoffs. And I know we're all. It's wild to be discussing the playoffs in September before a preseason game has been played, but there is nothing to discuss other than
yeah.
that for a team like the Rangers right now, where they have
Yeah,
been
that's
consistently.
definitely just where we're at. So
Every team in the Metro falls very similar into that category of you can do it in the regular season. You've shown that, or at least the ones that are going to compete. Go show that you can do anything in the playoffs. Like the three big cats in the Metro, you had the Rangers last year who lost in Game 7 of Round 1. Before that were, a couple games away from a Stanley Cup appearance. You have Carolina who has been, God, just consistently making it to get eliminated. They're the Twins of hockey. And the Devils, who they had a nice fun run in the regular season last year. They kind of cooled off in the second half. They got the Rangers good, but didn't they get beat 4-1 in that Kane series?
yeah, I think they won Game 3, and that's it.
But like they got ran off the ice in most of those games.
Yeah, definitely.
3 of the 4 losses they had to go to their backup just from like we don't want to let our starter get embarrassed too bad. It wasn't. Not that a 5-1 series has ever seemed that close, but it wasn't even a close 5-1 series. Like, that was a... You reevaluate a lot of things after that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those two teams are, we can say whatever we want about them, but that they're going to be our two, arch rivals this season again. And to be honest with you, as much as I am confident about, beating the Canes, I can't say that about the Devils. And now I'm going into that with the mindset of how this Rangers team played last season, where they were now the past 2 seasons. Let's not, don't get it twisted. They were very awful defensively for the past 2 years. So if they could find a way to be any better than that, I feel better against them up against the Devils, but the Canes, I just think we have their number. I think we've done enough to prove that. I think the only thing that we really need to worry about to actually have a chance of overtaking either one of them is just playing better 5-on-5 and just letting Igor do his thing, because we obviously know how good he is. And if you could just give him anything better than what you have, I think that's really the X factor. I mean, like I said, I think I've said it like twice on here. The Rangers were 23rd 5-on-5 last year. Not even like in the playoff tier. So that, if we could just get anything better than that, I think we will be fine. But that's just about it. The one thing I will say, the Devils definitely look really good on paper. Tyler Toffoli is definitely a good pickup for them. The one thing I will say about him, and hopefully this doesn't come back to bite me, but it is what it is. Last season was definitely an outlier, regardless of how you want to look at it. I mean, if I were to pull up his career stats, he's like a 40-point player for most of his career. And all of a sudden last year, he just exploded. And I don't know how confident I am of him doing that again. I guess we'll find out. But let me pull this up. Hold on. Toffoli.
I have deep love for Tyler Toffoli, if for no other reason than the first time I ever played Be a Pro on Shell, I had him as a line mate. So I gotta.
Yeah, he's your boy for life.
Nice. That's my ride or die right there, man. I don't know what you're talking about with Tyler Toffoli over there. I would like to
Let's
say the
see.
same about my first Road to the Show adventure, but I had a certain shortstop from Tampa, so I have to pull back on that one.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, so I have everything up now. So last year he had 34 goals, 39 assists, and 73 points. Now, one caveat is a lot of his, seasons he hasn't played a full season, or at least the past two. So, uh 21-22 he had 23 points in 37 games. Before that, 26 in 37 games, and then other than that, 44 points, 34, 34, 47, 30, 34, 58, 49, 29. And the best one out of those is 15-16 with the Kings, and that's when
Mm-mm-mm.
they were, quite a good hockey team back
Yeah,
then.
they
So,
were they
like
were
I said, it's
making.
definitely an outlier. Hopefully he doesn't put up 95 after I said all this, but I mean, that is really the only part of their team that's that much different, and I wouldn't say it's like this drastic upgrade, game-changing move just because I'm just calling it the way I'm seeing it right now. He
Right.
really has not been that his whole career. So,
I will definitely say this for the Rangers is while they didn't make any crazy offseason pickups, Toffoli's a good get. The Canes and Devils didn't go get that game wrecking player either. Like
yeah, yeah.
they didn't get a lot better. I think there's a gap. I think the Rangers are the third best team in that division, but I don't think it's this crazy mile by mile by mile gap that you have with a division. I can't think of another. I can't think of another one who has like two very clear top dogs and then just a third bottom feeder. But there's not this implausible gap. If things break right for the Rangers, if Loff is that first overall pick, even if he's just above average, like if he can score 55, 60 points, if he can just be an okay player, if Kako can do the same, if Hedel takes a step forward, if things break right for the Rangers and just kind of break neutral, like they do what they're expected to do for the other teams, I could very well see a way where the Rangers are threatening for home ice in round one. Or, God, if they
Hmm.
really break right, maybe a top spot in the Metro? And I'm not
Yeah,
even saying
yeah.
they have to break in a way where, Lafreniere just becomes this MVP player and scores 110 points and pots 40. Just
Hmm.
if he can be solid, if the defense doesn't hang Igor out on a drying line every single night where the shots are, 48 to 27. If you
Hmm.
can just and half of those 40 and half of those 48 are either breakaways or 2-on-1s coming back the other way because someone just decided, well, time for a line change anyway. Like if you can just function as a normal hockey team.
Yeah, if we could not only get two shots in a period against the Sharks, that'd be sweet.
What
The teams like the Sharks. If
have
we could not be struggling through 40 minutes against the Canadians, that'd be ideal.
I forgot was that shark is the shark thing a real statistic?
I vividly remember watching that with a straight face.
Dear God.
I remember Sam Rosen being the period was ending and they were walking back to the locker room and he was like, "Boy, Joe, the Rangers only had two shots in that period," and then they just start going on. And I'm just sitting there with a straight face, just pure anger. I remember it.
I
I don't remember the exact date, but believe me, I remember it.
Oh my God, I've suppressed that so well. I Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess now I have last year's standings in front of me. So obviously,
Perfect.
Carolina, Devils, Rangers. Carolina 113 points, Devils 112, Rangers 107. And that's, obviously we know the Rangers got off to a terrible, terrible, terrible start last year. So if we
Right.
could avoid that, don't get it twisted. Like all those teams are pretty much neck and neck with each other. If you just put all the bias aside, none of them are really, you know, leaps and bounds above each other whatsoever. So it's gonna be a lock for those three. If I had to just guess right now, I would assume that the order of those three is gonna stay the same. But I wouldn't be shocked if it gets flipped either one of the three ways. Now, in terms of everything else in the Metro, um, there there's some stuff going on. with everyone else. So obviously the Islanders, for some reason, just think that they don't have to change anything about their team, and they just continue to keep trying the same thing, and they've improved nothing. So they'll probably stay exactly where they are because they haven't changed anything.
Mm-hmm.
The Penguins, obviously, this has to be the first time that we've recorded while they have Erik Karlsson, right? It has to be.
Yes.
So,
Funny.
I'm still not scared of them.
Can I throw one
Like,
brief thing
oh.
in really quickly on that?
Yeah.
I found the game. It was 16-2 shots in favor of San Jose in the third period. That the Rangers lost 3-2 in overtime. And Erik Karlsson was the one star of that game because he scored the OT winner.
Yeah, so that's not fun. Two shots.
Yep.
2 shots,
Yep.
yeah.
So, yeah, good for Erik Karlsson going to Pittsburgh, and Dubas now is their president. That's solid, but like that whole everyone that isn't us and the Islanders. Mm-hmm. You have Philly, Pittsburgh, Washington, and Columbus who are just going to be in a mid-off for that bottom ranking.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? Like, Erik Karlsson is not great defensively at this point in his career. He's just not. And Chris Letang is not great defensively at this point in his career. And they have literally nobody else that gives them any other hope of being good defensively. And they have the worst starting goalie in the National Hockey League still. So am I scared? No, because they didn't really improve. And I don't know exactly how long Gensel's going to be out, but Jake Gensel is going to miss the beginning of the season. So I'm still not scared of them. They're one of those teams that won't go away. So do I think they're going to bottom out? No. They're going to threaten multiple times this season, but they're just not going to be a legitimate good team. And I will put a lot of money on that.
I'm going to throw one out there. I think Columbus has a chance to just be really fun and go on some weird run. Not a playoff run by any means. But like,
yeah, they've got some good players over there. They really do.
I could see them somehow finishing 5th. And that might be insane
I could see it for sure.
But like, I could very easily see a reality where the Penguins' age just goes, yeah, no, you're not having it here anymore, bud. And Columbus, I kind of just vibe with them, and I know that isn't obviously the most scientific way to analyze a team, but there's just something, I feel it in my loins, you might say, for Columbus.
Yeah. I listen, Adam Fantilli. I've been super high on Adam Fantilli for months and months and months, and I'm not the biggest college hockey guy in the world, but I do watch. I do keep up with it, especially when it comes down to playoff time for college hockey. I definitely heavily keep up with it, and with the World Juniors, that's something that I heavily follow every year. And obviously, Connor Bedard is a god in himself, but I think Adam Fantilli is so far above and beyond everyone else in that draft besides Bedard. That's just my opinion. Maybe it's not that big of a gap. We obviously have to see, but I just think he has so many. His entire game style is so translatable to the NHL. There's not one thing that he does where I'm concerned that he'll struggle with. He already has the size. He's way faster than you'd expect for his size, and he just has everything else in terms of skill. And I mean, he went to the team he wanted to go to. Columbus also, they definitely do have a lot of other prospects. And listen, they have good players outside of that. Like, they still have Johnny Gaudreau. Yeah, I mean, do I think they're going to be a playoff team? No, but I think Adam Fantilli is going to be. I think he's immediately in the top 6 for them, easily.
I crapped bricks when he fell to 3. Like, I was.
I was so shocked. I think that was over. I listen. Like I said, we have to see everything, but I was just so stunned when he didn't go second. I really was. Like, I think he is, like I said, everything about his game is so translatable to the NHL. Like it is. It's not like he was playing, against players that are just significantly worse than him, and he just kind of was, a year above everyone else, and that's the only reason he had that success. Like every game you play that he plays, you're gonna get the exact same thing out of him. I never really saw a game where he's not noticeable or he had an off night or anything like that. Like he is really super super consistent, and just everything he does is I think is just something he could translate every single night in the NHL, just no matter what.
I cannot imagine how fast Columbus ran that draft card in when they heard he's available.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I
so
would have been sprinting down that hallway.
let's see. I definitely am curious because listen, now the reason I'm going to do this is because, like we said, the top three in the Metro are the top three in the Metro. I'm not concerned in the slightest about it changing whatsoever. I'm not concerned about any other team being in the top three. Now, like I said, the Islanders keep trying the same exact thing for some reason, and they are just going to stay put. Sorokin is really, really good, so I definitely think they should be in the playoffs again, or at least right around there, just based on Sorokin.
They are the meme of copy my homework, but don't make it obvious.
Yeah.
You want to waste a Russian goaltender too? Sure.
Yeah, the Penguins. Listen, like I said, I'm not scared, but I think the reason that I still have them at five or six is just because they're still better than the Capitals.
Mm-hmm.
The Flyers are easily going to be dead last. So, I mean, like, if you want to flip Columbus or the Penguins, you could do that. But other than that, like, there's no point in even talking about the Capitals or the Flyers. Like, there's just really not.
You don't think Torts is going to take the Flyers on a mystical run all the way to
I want to look
place?
up. I want to look up the Columbus Blue Jackets. I just want to see, like,
Head coach,
how much
Babcock.
upside. Yeah, that's Wow, we haven't talked about that. Yeah, that is interesting. Listen, when we did our whole coaching candidate, we pretty much said anyone but him. Like anybody but him. And so now we see why. Let's see, Blue Jackets roster 23-24. I just want to see like how much upside I genuinely believe they have. Because if we have to have, like, just for the sake of fun, like a sleeper pick in this division, that is literally the only option. So we might as well just look at it. 24, like, because, I mean, you'd assume Gaudreau is, I forget how, like, good he was last year, to be honest. Like, I don't think he was
mid,
bad, but...
They finished third, so, like, he could have been their best player and still ended up with like 50 points.
Yeah.
Like, they had
I mean, they definitely have like a lot of really good prospects here. I mean, they still have Line A. At this point, I don't really see him being anything more than he currently is. Hold on.
Oh.
Wait. Oh no. Wait, how old is Line A?
He's older, right? Is it rhetorical or 25? What? Aw, damn, did you cut out?
Hold on. Okay, he's 25.
Yeah.
That's a typo because it says he's 29. I literally just shit bricks because I'm like, there's no way he's 29. Okay.
Gaudreau's
so
30? Good God.
Yeah, that's scary.
Wait.
That is really
They're
scary.
paying Zach Werenski $10 million?
What? Well, I don't know. That's let me just say, like, Adam Fox is a beautiful man for taking that contract because he could literally run our pockets if he wanted to. Because some of the defenseman contracts are like ridiculous.
47
yeah.
points?
So listen, I don't know exactly how good they're gonna be. I just think if you had to pick like a sleeper team, it would be this. it all definitely depends on how, I think Johnny Gaudreau would obviously be the X factor there. Okay, so 22-23 season, he played 80 games, 74 points, minus 33. Oh my God. Okay. Wow. All right. Yeah,
Panarin?
that's. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, that's really concerning.
How do you
Yeah,
get to be that as a winger?
yeah, that's
Also, wait a
that's a
minute.
huge drop off though, because listen, 21-22, he had 115 points,
Yeah.
and he was plus 64. Like, what happened?
Wait. Okay, more important question that I have for you. He had 53 assists last year. Who was he passing it to?
Yeah,
Who on that Columbus team
definitely
was he?
strange. That is definitely strange.
That's wild. Also, 40 goals to 21. Oh, woof.
Yeah. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Line A last year. So he played 55 games. He had 52 points. Okay. So maybe if we want to be Blue Jackets fans here for a second, first of all, why did he go bald? Second of all, if he could play a full season, maybe you could actually, if you could actually get like a full season out of him, and if he had 22 goals, 30 assists, 52 points, and 55, maybe if if you want to play devil's advocate and say that they could be way better than they are, maybe if he plays 82, he's an X factor for them. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Maybe if he wasn't bald.
Yeah, that's definitely a guy that I have no hope for playing any defense. So I guess if you want to look at it that now, their center depth is probably a little concerning, right?
You don't
Probably
like-
more than a little.
What's wrong? You don't believe in Boone Jenner?
Yeah. So listen, like I just said, Adam Fantilli is one of my favorite players in this past draft. Probably out of the past few drafts, it's one of the only guys I've been this high on.
Mm-hmm.
It's him, Boone Jenner, and then like I'm not even seeing anyone on
Jack
like shooting
Roslovic?
correctly. Yeah, that's interesting. He's definitely a wild card. I don't know how. Let's see. So he had 44 points and 77 last year. He could be solid for them. He just doesn't have like a whole lot of upside at this point.
Kent
He really doesn't.
Johnson, my favorite. He does not have a picture on Sport Track. Kent Johnson, that's incredible. One of my very favorite Chell buys because he's usually
Yeah.
cheap. He was a 5th overall pick a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, he has upside too. Like I said, that their team definitely has a lot of guys that I wouldn't be shocked if they had took that next step. So we'll see. Like I said, they're not going to be better than the top 3 in the Metro.
No.
But if there's one team if I had to pick one team from the Metro to like sneak into the playoffs or potentially make a run, it would be them. And I don't know if that's stupid or not, but it's just like I feel like they do have a lot of upside. It
Weirder
just
things have
sucks that
happened.
their 2 best forwards are completely neglecting defense.
I mean,
So
shh. That's why you have Zach Werenski.
yeah, hold on. Wasn't Werenski out for a lot of last
He
season?
played 13 games.
Yeah, 13. That's actually a lot lower than I thought it was.
Yeah.
So listen, if they stay healthy, or at least remotely healthy, I think they could definitely be a good team. I don't know how you feel about Elvis Merzlikins. I would assume he's going to be their number 1 again for between the pipes. I don't really see anybody else on here that I would.
Would you like to know? I'm actually surprisingly high on Merzlikins, but do you want to know his numbers last year?
I would love to.
7-18 record.
I'm not really surprised.
4.23 goal against.
Oh my God.
860 or 876 save.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
Now, they were historically terrible last year. And
yeah,
he was
and
going through a
they
lot.
lost Werenski too, so you'd assume that will improve.
I'll give him the
But-
benefit also that he was going through a lot last year mentally with the whole I forget the name, but the other goaltender for the Blue Jackets who passed away. So
Mhm.
I'll give him that
Yeah,
last
yeah.
year was just sort of trying to mentally get through it.
Mhm.
Because before that, the last season he played 59 games, 322, 907. That's
Mhm.
solid. Year before that, it was only 28 games in 2020, but it was the shortened season, 277, 916. I think he could rebound and be pretty solid. I would like to see that.
Mhm.
I think they'd have a hard time edging out the Islanders for fourth, but I think they could definitely finish fifth. Like,
Yeah.
I know Pittsburgh's probably the hot pick to be the fifth spot, but like that, I understand how good offensively Erik Karlsson is, but the Karlsson-Pettersson combo on the top pair is gonna somehow score like 150 points and be a negative 170.
Yeah.
Like, they
Yeah.
just, it's ghastly. Because was Karlsson, I might be out of my mind here. Was he a minus last year for the year, even though he was a 100 point?
It wouldn't be shocked. I really wouldn't be shocked at all.
Like, he was, well, yeah, he scored crazy. Minus 26.
Yeah, like I said, that does not surprise me at all.
Usually I love to say that plus minus is a pretty not important statistic, but that's damning. That's
Yeah.
the fact that you can put 101 points in and still be on the ice that much is just...
Yeah, that's definitely jarring for sure. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, with them specifically, I think they could be scary. Like, if you can get like around another 100-point season plus from Johnny Gaudreau, or at least like 90, and Line stays healthy, and like I said, Fantilli is a very, very good player. Other than that, you just kind of have to hope that the other prospects that they have, shine. That's really it, because they don't really have too much else. Obviously, Boone Jenner is like a solid player, but that's about it. That's about the only sure things about the team. And obviously getting, Werenski back is huge, because I remember that just completely derailed them. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, if there's one team I had to pick, it would be them, but it's also very slim pickings in this division. Yeah. So
all right, Washington Capitals. Obviously a team that's going to threaten.
Yeah, they're definitely not over the hill at all.
Oh, no, not whatsoever. Holy God! This is... Okay, I know that this is just basically turned into Rabbit Hole City. Would you like to take a gander at the age of TJ Oshie?
If I had to guess, it's like 34?
He's 37!
Oh, my... Dude, that's heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking. I remember watching him in the shootout for USA when he was, like, young.
That's
oh my god.
Bonkers that he's 37. He's only a year younger than Ovi.
Yeah, wow.
How is that possible?
Oh my god. Yeah, they're let's see. So oh my god. So I guess it would be what? Darcy Kemper in net for them again. And defense.
God
let's see
bless you,
here.
Darcy
So
Kemper.
you have John Carlson.
Yep.
Who is now, I think, 33?
34?
34. And then after that,
Trevor
they
Van Riemsdyk?
They have Dylan McElrath. Oh my god, do you remember him?
That's a fake name.
Dude, they picked... listen, hold on. We're going to end this soon. I just have to look this up. Dylan, because I remember the Rangers picked him over some players.
They have Charlie Lindgren as their
bring him
goaltender.
over. Let's see. Draft class, because we picked him. He went 10th overall by the New York Rangers.
Yep.
Let's see. 2010 NHL draft picks. Let's see. So, Taylor Hall, Tyler Seguin, Goodbranson, Ryan Johansson, Niederreiter, blah, 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 Jeff Skinner, Michael Granlund. Then it's Dylan McElrath, Jack Campbell, Cam Fowler. Now, we have Jaden Schwartz, who I don't really know how, he would have impacted the team as much. Let me know if you've heard of any of these names.
I would love to
Vladimir
learn.
Tarasenko.
I have heard of him.
Yeah. So we picked him over Vladimir Tarasenko. Um, let's see here.
That's not a good thing.
Evgeny Kuznetsov.
I've heard of him as well. This
There's
isn't
also
getting
Kevin
better.
Hayes, but I mean, we ended up getting Kevin Hayes, so who cares? But I mean, still, like that's such a wasted draft pick. Even, dude, listen, Cam Fowler. Like because no, like think of it this way, right? Like obviously, I know it gets a little tricky sometimes when you're picking Russian players. Like nobody really knows. Nobody knew that Vlad Tarasenko was really going to become what he became,
No.
right? Like same thing with Kuznetsov. Like it's always a wild card when you're picking Russians. So I'll give them a little bit of a pass there. But you had like just think of it this way: soon as the picks started dwindling down to 10, the Rangers had a choice to make. And they had a choice to make between Dylan McIlrath and Cam Fowler. And not to make it seem like Cam Fowler is a Norris, candidate every year, but he has been a very good player in this league for a very long time. And that in itself kind of just tells you how poorly this team is drafted. that right there kind of tells a story because there's been, dude, we've picked guys over Claude Giroux. We picked guys over a lot of people. So, let's see, just round 2. We could wrap this up whenever now, but now I'm curious as to who went. Oh, Tyler Pitlick actually went shortly after that.
Rangers legend.
Welcome aboard. Oscar Lindbergh, who I have his jersey, by the way. That's a long story. Patrick Nemeth, wow. Okay,
What?
yeah. Holy. This draft class is really nothing special. Yeah, apart from, Taylor Hall, Sagan, those are really like and obviously Tarasenko, Kuznetsov. That's like really as premier as it gets at this draft class. But that name just struck a nerve in my memory because I'm like, this was a part of one of the worst draft fumbles in New York Rangers history.
Oh, Lord.
When we picked him, it was like, he's a stay-at-home defenseman, all that. And he just ended up not being very good at all. So. Yeah, like Cam Fowler, dude. If oh my God, if you could have just had Cam Fowler in a part of the defense with that team in front of Hank, like oh my God, because that was prime Cam Fowler too during those years. So now, do I think I don't know if that's enough for them to win the cup, but we had a major struggle to find defensemen for many, many, many years. So. That hurt for a while, knowing that he was just ended up being that good. And I'm also curious as to how many games Mr. Dylan McIlrath played for the Rangers.
Okay. You can look that up. I'm sending you a picture on Discord. This photo of Charlie Lindgren makes me deeply unsettled.
Yeah, that is freaky. That is really scary.
That is Uncanny Valley, but a real person. I deeply hate that. Like, it's so close to Ryan, but just... It's like you left him in the oven for a little too long.
Oh my God. Yeah, so... Wow, that scared the hell out of me. Alright, so... I just wanted to know the exact numbers. So Dylan McIlrath played 36 total games for the Rangers. He went 10th overall, by the way.
Oh.
He had 4 points. Now, I know he's a defenseman. That doesn't really matter. But 36 games for a 10th overall? Like, come on, man. That's what plagued us for so many years. I would have never looked this guy up. I didn't even know he was still employed in the NHL. So, but I remember that was a name that you could just get me to talk for hours a few years ago about that guy, about how just terrible he was. That was one of the biggest draft fumbles ever by any of my teams. And that says a lot. I like the Jets, so.
Oh.
Alright, yeah, that's about it. I mean, that was a huge rabbit hole we just went down. But, I mean, yeah, like we said.
It's off-season. This is what it's made for.
Yeah, this is... Well, while we can actually be stress-free, let's be stress-free.
While we can have fun and discuss Charlie Lindgren's horrible-looking face.
Yeah, so we know what we're gonna expect.
Yeah.
For probably the 7th episode in a row, we're begging, Laugh and Kako to break out. Let's hope they do.
Oh, that'd be
Other than
nice.
that, let's just hope that they try in the regular season, and then
Ah,
I
that's
guess
a low ass bar, but it's
we'll see how everything shakes out, and then I guess we'll just see how everything actually shakes out in the playoffs.
yeah. I think that's about all we can say before there is a game played. There is a preseason game. I said this beforehand, but I will reiterate it and say it in the video. Preseason game Sunday against Boston, taking on the Bruins in Boston, I believe. Yep.
I think
And
so,
then
yeah.
the first official game is going to be Buffalo in Buffalo on the 12th of October.
Yeah. So
I'm interested.
we will do. Yeah, that's definitely. I will say that's a little bit of a weird first game from the
Yeah.
NHL schedule makers. Just a little bit strange. Like I don't. Now this is gonna sound very selfish because I don't want to. I understand the Rangers can't be on primetime TV to open the season every year, but like I just think it's a fumble to not have Rangers Devils on
Yeah.
TNT. I think that's just how they should try to aim for it with every team. Like, not even just the Rangers. I don't see why you're not doing like playoff rematches.
Do you want
Um,
to know the absolute garbage fest that is the first night of games? Since we're going down
I
rabbit holes.
I would love to. I think I looked at it many moons ago and I just haven't.
Predators Lightning, Blackhawks Penguins, and Kraken Knights
Oh,
to kick off your season.
yeah. This league is just so unserious, man. Like, what are they doing? Like, oh my god. Oh my god.
I,
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. They're not very good at marketing. We've known this for a while.
tasty that is. I
Yeah, so now I'm curious because like what's the first game of our season that's actually like
Interesting.
meaningful? Yeah, so we
Uh,
play the Sabres, the
they
Blue Jackets, the Coyotes, Predators, Kraken, Flames, Oilers, Canucks, Jets. And now I have to actually click on the schedule to find a game
November
that is like
is the first like
oh my
division rival
god.
game. Wait, no, the
That's
first
just
meaningful game is obviously that Blue Jackets game on Saturday night.
yeah. Yeah, so like what is going on? Yeah, so Sabres, Blue Jackets,
They don't play the
Coyotes,
Devils
Preds.
till late November.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's
That's really
wild.
crazy. Yeah, so I guess so our first one that actually has any meeting would be November 2nd against the Canes.
Yep. That's
It's
good job, NHL. Doing a great job. Round
just
of
like way to
applause
get
for.
everybody pumped for the season. Like I don't understand.
Can you imagine Gary Bettman having to walk out? I did not watch the reveal, but be like, I hope you're all ready for another great season of hockey. Please welcome the Blackhawks and Penguins.
Oh yeah, that's nuts.
Not even the like Taves and Kane Blackhawks. Now, just
Yeah,
the
like the Blackhawks, like they're
Blackhawks.
there. They have Bedard now,
They
but
have Bedard and
they
$10
quite
million
literally
Seth
have nobody else.
Jones.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, that's just before I anything triggers my brain to look anything else up. I
Yep.
think we
We
should
have to
probably
wrap
wrap
it
it up.
Probably be back after the preseason has concluded. Maybe around that. Before the first game, though, we'll definitely be back to say if there was anything that we saw in the preseason. And
Yeah.
hopefully after that, we'll go weekly again for the
Yeah,
regular
definitely.
season.
Once the regular season starts,
Yeah.
we'll get back to weekly. This has been a very quiet off season,
Yeah.
considering the
Don't
most
blame
notable
us.
thing that happened was Blake Wheeler. So
Don't. It's not our fault. Like, do you want an hour-long podcast of us discussing Nick Bonino becoming a Ranger?
I mean, listen, we could do that, but it's not something that's entertaining. So
That'd be special. But until we return, thank you all so very much for watching the 13th episode of the Rangers Game Plan podcast. If you enjoyed it, please consider to like and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Weston, and go Rangers.
yep, go Rangers.